Hello, my name is Marley Fenton, coming at you live with Alexander Hamilton. Hi, Mr. Hamilton. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Marley.
So I have some questions for you today, if you don't mind answering them.
Not at all. Go ahead.
You traveled to America in 1776. The Revolutionary War started in 1775. Did the revolution provoke you to come, or were circumstances of your country just too bad?
As a child, I prayed for a revolution. I hoped for a fight. The sparks of revolution went off in America, so I traveled to New York to be a part of it. The circumstances in the Caribbean islands weren't terrible, but they were pretty bad. Many homeless people roamed. I was one of them. When a hurricane hit, it devastated my town. My town was very poor, so that was part of the reason I left.
Elizabeth Schuyler, your wife, was an amazing person. She created the first private orphanage in New York City. How lucky did you feel having met such an amazing person? How did you two meet?
Elizabeth Schuyler is amazing. I feel extremely lucky to have met her, and it would not have happened if Angelica Schuyler hadn't chimed in. At a ball for the U.S. Continental Army, members and I met Angelica, we talked, and she introduced me to Elizabeth. A few weeks went by, and we started writing letters every night to each other.
During the Battle of Yorktown, you led a charge against the British. This happened right around the time your wife was pregnant. How did it feel being away from her? Did this affect your performance?
This made me feel even more motivated to end this war so I could come home to her earlier. This did not affect my performance, but improved it. It made me shoot with accuracy and run with all my might when I imagined getting back to her.
In 1798, you were appointed Inspector General and second in command as America geared up for the war against France. What happened to your military career when we signed a peace treaty with France?
After this treaty was signed, my military career was basically over for the time being. I left my position to George Washington and decided to study American government at King's College. I then went back to New York to study law with Aaron Burr.
You attended your dream school, King's College, or Columbia University. This was a very prestigious college. What did you major in at this school?
I majored in the American government course. I had to write many papers and essays to pass this course, but as you can see, it was all worth it. I now work for the American government, and I am a very talented writer.
Your father left you as a child, and your mother died when you were 12. Do you think of this often? Does it motivate you to work harder every day?
It really does motivate me to work harder because my mother left an amazing legacy, and I don't want to ruin it by doing something in my life that she would never do. I hope that my father sees my acts of greatness and wants to meet me one day.
In 1765, you abandoned what was left of your family. At the age of only 12, you went to work as a clerk in the counting house of two New York merchants in St. Croix. Did this influence your decision to move to America?
This was a very difficult part of my life. After my parents died and I just had to leave. It did have some impact on my decision to move, but the main reason was my determination to leave the military.
Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Hamilton, and letting us know a little bit more about you.
It was no problem. I really enjoyed myself here.
This is Marley Fenton signing off.
Sir, are you Muhammad Ali?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, then we're rolling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. People of Scottsdale, Florida. I am Joe Russo. We are here with the all-time boxing legend, Muhammad Ali.
Do you need something?
Yes, sir. Can we ask you some questions?
Sure thing.
All right. Why did you change your name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali?
Well, sir, when I was 22, I joined the Nation of Islam, which is a religion. In this religion, Muhammad is the name of the messenger of Allah. So I decided to fit into the religion, I must change my name to the messenger.
Interesting. So on to another question. How many years were you a professional fighter, and how many times were you knocked out?
I was a professional fighter for 21 years, and I was only knocked out once in my career. And technically, it was a TKO.
Okay. Now, how did you feel about the Vietnam War?
Well, Joe, I did not feel that the Vietnam War was something that America shouldn't have been in. It was stupid. Even though I got drafted into the Army, but I protested, and my religion as a Muslim is that I cannot kill anyone. It is that I cannot partake in any warfare at all. But the U.S. looked past that, just back, and I was sentenced to jail, fined thousands of dollars, and I was stripped of my heavyweight title, and because I tried to disobey the government.
Okay, thanks. Now, have you ever fought any fights outside of the MMA?
Well, yes. When I was in my late teens, I entered the Olympics, and I had won the gold and became a star. After a while, I went to MMA and started in the middle class and quickly made my way up to the heavyweight champion.
Thank you. We have only 2 more questions, okay?
Fine with me.
All right. Why did you change your religion and join Elijah Muhammad?
It's been a while, but I joined Elijah Muhammad because my religion, people like me, I like to be violent. And I once had a quote that said, if you kill my dog, you better hide your cat. And that means that I didn't like to be a person like Martin Luther King Jr., who would just stand around, give around speeches, and wanted peace. Later on in my life, I wanted that.
Okay, so final question. About your childhood. Did you enjoy your childhood?
My childhood was very rough. And, well, I started boxing, because this was in my childhood, when I was riding my bike and I locked it up and someone had actually stole it. I was so mad because this was a great bike and it was one of the best.
Is this why you started boxing in the first place?
It's completely why I started boxing. It was just complete nightmare to me. That bike meant everything to me because I had just gotten it. And anyway, when that bike was stolen, I was in tears and I ran to a cop and he said, I said to him I was gonna kill them. I was gonna flat out hurt them so much. Well, he said, if you're gonna fight him, you need to learn how to box. You need to learn how to fight. So after that, he trained me actually for a long time at my gym, at the gym that I was going to. And after a while, when I started into my teens, I decided that I should just cut off and I should go to the Olympics because I was actually starting to get really good at it. I trained so hard, and after the Olympics, everything to me just fell into place.
All right. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day, sir.
You too, Joe.
That's a wrap.
That was good.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Sydney Shim with DMM News. Today's interview is about a girl with a tragic past. Please welcome Annalise Frank. How are you, Miss Frank?
Please, call me Anne, and I've had better days, but it's gotten a whole lot better now that you're here.
Why, thank you, Anne. Anyway, so tell me, dearie, what's it like not to have a normal life?
Well, my diary is my best friend. Everyone's family is divided, but frankly, it was pretty swell staying and hiding. I mean, we even had a secret tunnel. It's right behind the bookshelf, and it led to a secret room. Wait, this won't be shown to the Germans, right?
Of course not. We're on your side, silly. That's amazing. But I was wondering if you could give us a short bit of your diary.
I'd rather not. That diary is my prized possession. It contains all of my emotions, and it really is important to me.
Well, are you able to tell us a little bit about it?
Of course. It was my 13th birthday, and we were eating supper when suddenly my father handed me a gift, a beautiful red checkered diary. I wrote in it all the time.
That's fantastic. Moving on. Can you tell us a little bit about what life was like when you were in hiding?
Well, we couldn't walk with our shoes on, and I had actually developed almost like a code for doing things. When I knew someone was in the bathroom, if I heard 2 creaks from the floorboards, I knew the bathroom was unoccupied. We had an hour and 40 minutes each morning to wash up, store our bedding, push the beds aside, put tables and chairs back where they belonged. Work started at 8:30 in the warehouse below, which was pretty hard to do because even the sound of a pin dropping was too loud.
It must have been very hard for you. Do you think everything you've been through has changed you in any way? Made you stronger?
This whole experience has made me stronger mentally and physically. I've learned responsibility and bravery. It has taken me this far, and I hope it will help me for many years to come. Of course, it has been very hard and terrible for anyone to have this experience, but I will continue to grow into a courageous adult.
That's so touching, Anne. I only have a few questions. I won't keep you much longer. How was it like to transfer from this secret annex to Auschwitz camp?
It might have been one of the hardest things to experience in my life. We were crammed in tight areas and everyone around me was crying. It was extremely difficult to get through, but I've learned how to cope with things that might come my way.
Can you elaborate on that, Anne?
Well, on August 4th, 1944, me and 7 others were discovered in our annex by the Gestapo. We were taken to the Auschwitz. They were mentioning something about a shower, but they didn't let us go. After that, we had little food and water and were ordered around all day. It's been hard, but I found ways to keep myself positive.
Wow, that was beautiful. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to an interview. Sydney Shim, DMM, Archbishop Poland.
Hello, Mr. President. How's your day going?
Good, and you?
Good. Thanks. Now let's get on to the questions. Mr. President, when you were elected, the Soviet Union was thinking of many things that would concern an incoming president, such as building a huge nuclear arsenal and deploying missiles targeting European cities. How did you handle this?
I started to build up our military. I spent over $1 trillion to do this, and that was the most spent on arms during American peacetime history. I wanted to build the Western Alliance, and I ended up deploying missiles in Europe to counter what the Russians have aimed at European cities. I thought twice about deploying those missiles, and I wanted to come up with an agreement with the Soviets.
How many years were you in the military service?
I've been in the military service for 8 years.
How many times did you run unsuccessfully for the Republican presidential nomination?
I twice ran unsuccessfully for the Republican presidential nomination in 1968 and 1976.
Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Colleen Fay, coming to you live with our amazing President Abraham Lincoln. Welcome back to the Colleen Show, and thanks for watching.
Wow, thank you for such an amazing introduction.
I know you've all been anticipating this episode, so I'm not going to hold you back anymore. Mr. President, are you ready to get started?
I sure am.
Now, today on this episode, I will be reviewing Abraham Lincoln with questions you've all asked. Mr. President, when you took place in the Civil War, did you have any experience with the military or what to do? How did you know who to pick to defend our country?
I did not know much about the military, but I really had no choice of what to do. When it came to the decision, I had found a general that I trusted and had won major victories, such as the siege of Fort Donelson, the Battle of Vicksburg, and the Battle of Shenandoah, and from there on it was history.
Question 2. Throughout your life, you had had many experience with politics, slavery, and of course the Civil War. If you had to choose, would you say you're more liberal or conservative?
Throughout my presidency, I have always liked to view things more conservative. Instead of changing things, I would minimize change, but I like to keep things how they used to be.
Question 3. Throughout your childhood, you've worked on a farm and had to do a lot of work. Being president now compared to your farm work, how does the comparison feel?
Being president is a very big change compared to working on a farm. It is definitely more stressful than working on a farm.
Question 4. Which job do you like better, Mr. President?
I like being president because I feel as if I am able to make a change in the world.
On April 16th, you signed the Emancipation Act to free more than 3,000 slaves. Did you feel powerful or pressured?
When I signed that, I didn't feel powerful. I just was happy that I was the first man to free so many slaves. I was also mad that other people hadn't ended slavery before I became president.
Question 6. I've heard you took place in the Armstrong case. Could you explain exactly what is that and how you took place in it?
And instead of being the president, I actually switched matters and I was a lawyer for the Armstrong case. The Armstrong case was when 2 men named Duff and Norris were accused of killing a man in a drunken brawl. I had to defend my client, and I was hired a doctor to check the case out, and my client was not guilty.
That's amazing. Last question. Throughout your childhood and life, many viewers are asking what your most successful event in your life was, in your opinion.
I'm very proud about my accomplishments involving slavery. It is a great step towards a better society, and the world can now be a better place. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. See you next episode.
Hi, it's Ari Kaufman coming at you with John F. Kennedy. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Do you mind if we ask you some questions?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Okay, to begin with, what motivated you to run for president in 1960?
My view of politics started when I was a kid, influenced mainly by my parents. When my brother also became more interested in politics, It also pushed me too. So when I believed I could run for president, I did as soon as I could. In 1960, I ran up against Lyndon B. Johnson and fortunately won.
How did it feel when you prevented the Cuban Missile Crisis?
I felt relieved, and so did all of America. For 14 days, Nikita Khrushchev and I figured out a way to prevent the Cuban Missile Crisis. We negotiated with Cuba and Russia to prevent them from launching missiles at America and succeeded.
What kinds of lessons did you learn from nearly going to nuclear war with during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
I learned how insanely incredible it is for two men sitting on opposite sides of the world, both thought of building nuclear weapons at the same time for the same reason. But not only that, after privately make a treaty to end what their nations were trying to do together.
Most people call you the greatest president to ever serve. They also said you make amazing quotes and speeches. What do you think is the greatest quote you've ever spoken?
The greatest quote I've ever spoken was probably, "Things don't happen, they're made to happen." The quote means some things in life just have to happen. Nobody caused it and you can't prevent it.
Why did you sign a paper for nuclear test ban?
Signing the nuclear test ban treaty meant prohibiting any nuclear weapon testing in outer space, underwater, or in the atmosphere. I did this because radioactive fallout had been found inside of wheat and milk in the North U.S. I needed to prevent this because it could be very dangerous.
That's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you for coming to answer them, Mr. Kennedy.
It was a pleasure.
See you next time. Bye.